Yeah.
Okay. Hello and welcome to Kiss My Asparagus podcast. I'm your host, Latasha, and today I have a special guest, Miss Isa Jamira, activist, farmer, and artist who creates educational experiences around food and land. Through hosting and facilitating social events, she creates welcoming spaces for people to have fun, learn, and collectively set intentions for a safe and just future. Her work encourages and teaches people to foster a relationship with our earth by growing food, using environmentally friendly technology, composting, volunteering in community, and sharing knowledge. Isa stopped operating as a sole proprietor, founded Liberated Lands in 2022. Liberated Lands is a growing community where individuals learn how to take care of themselves through taking care of the earth. The mission of Liberated Lands is to create healing and educational growing environments for free thinkers. Isa has been recognized for her work in Scenic Hudson, Teen Vogue, Slow Food USA, Yahoo's In the Know, and more. Help me welcome Miss Isa Jamira to the show. I need some sound effects, right? So, how's your morning going?
Sweet. Yeah. Morning is sweet. It's rainy where I'm at. And I like rainy days. Yeah. I
Me
like
too,
rainy days. The land needs it. We need it.
for sure. So, we'll just hop right into the questions that I have for you, a few things that I'm interested in knowing. So, can you talk to the audience a little bit about the benefits of aquaponic farming? You mentioned that in the video that you sent me, and the potential it has in growing organic and natural foods while addressing the food desert issues in the inner cities.
Oh, yeah. I love aquaponics. Aquaponics has a really special place in my heart because I have a really, I have a unique story where most people who get into farming and urban gardening or just land work in general, they work with the land. But my first experience with growing food was through an aquaponics farm called Oco Farms in Brooklyn, New York. They're the only outdoor educational aquaponics facility that's open and accessible to the public in, I believe, all of New York. And it also is founded by a Nigerian woman, which is inspirational to me as well. And I so I'm starting to like reminisce on all those memories being back at that farm when I was a
Reminisce, tell us about it, sis.
um yeah, so aquaponics, the benefits of aquaponics are so many. It's scalable, so it could be small, it could be tabletop, it could be some people have created aquaponic systems in their bathtub if you want to be that radical about it, about your food growing journey and raising your own fish without antibiotics or, pesticides and things of that nature. Um, it saves water, right? One of the major things when it comes to growing food is how are we going to water our plants? Yes, test your soil quality, absolutely, but it's also like water. You need to make sure you have a source of water. Um, and in a world where we're running out of water, we don't like to think about this, but in a world where we're running out of fresh water for us to be able to drink and water all of our plants, having a farming system or knowing how to utilize a farming system that can save up to 80%, like it could use on average 80% less water than traditional soil farming. Like that's good to know, right? And really and truly, it is aquaponics is just the modern term that we use for it, but it's a technology that's as old as time. What you're really doing is replicating an ecosystem of a pond, right? And you're using that fish waste water to you're feeding your fish, right? And you also should not be feeding your fish any type of food or medication, antibiotics, because that would ultimately render your food inedible because that medication and would go into their stool, right? They would poop it out, and then that would be circulated to your plants, and that would render your plants inedible. And the reason why you can't use any pesticides is because that's poison that's poison on your plants, and then that's going to affect the health of your fish. So it's a foolproof way of being organic. For whatever reasons, like I can't get into the actual specifics of it. I know that there's like legal jargon-ish around why aquaponics is not considered quote unquote organic. But it is organic.
And it's the more natural option, right? Compared
yes.
to, I was going to ask you about hydroponics and compare those two types of ecosystems.
I mean, they're different. So I definitely know a lot more about aquaponics, and I gravitated more toward aquaponics because it really is you're recreating a natural ecosystem.
Mm-hmm.
And with hydroponics, and I want to also make sure that I answered your original question. But I will talk about hydroponics for briefly. But hydroponics, as far as what I understand, is a great way to grow food, right, as well, if you have the resources to do it. But the thing with hydroponics, of what I understand, is that it really is a fully man-made system, and you are pouring the nutrients in, right? You're pouring your nutrients in rather than getting it from.
Are they synthetic, the nutrients?
It could be, yeah. It could be synthetic from what I understand, or it could be a natural source. It all depends on who the farmer is, what the organization, what their values are, like what their budget is, right? And what they can really invest in. And you do have to flush out the water, right? Because there could be like nutrient buildup, and then you have to flush out the water. So it's not like a recirculating water system in the way that aquaponics is. Like, you don't really want to flush out your water in aquaponics because you're creating a really great ecosystem. Like, there's great microorganisms going on in there. The only time when you want to flush out your water, or not the only time, but one of the major times that you're flushing out your water, is if your fish are sick, right? And so the way that we would treat our fish when I was working at that farm was that we would treat them in a salt bath, right? We would take the fish out and put them in little batches of salt baths, and we would do that like every day, sometimes, depending on how bad their sores may or may not have been. And if it was really, really bad, then we would flush the system, right? But then that would ultimately mean like we're starting again, like we're starting again. And that was the last resort of like, okay, our fish are really sick. We need to get whatever is in the water out of the water, and we need to treat them and make sure that we're good. So that would be like the last resort, right? But otherwise, you want to hold on to that water because that's like good, nutrient dense water for your fish, for your plants. Yeah, I love aquaponics. And you get to eat the fish. Like it's, you get to raise your own antibiotic free, dye free. Like the seafood industry is garbage, really and truly. It's terrible. Like, they're getting fish, and a lot of the time your fish has been frozen, refrozen, unfrozen again, right? Fish, when you go to a fish section, you should not smell fish.
Yeah.
Like, that means that the fish have been dead for a really, 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 really long time. Like, you're just smelling dead, deadness. And I learned that by working at an aquaponics farm. I learned that because I remember the fish died. We found some dead fish, and I was like, it doesn't smell like fish. And then the head farmer and founder was like, yeah, it's not supposed to smell like anything, actually, because this is a fresh, dead fish. Like, fresh fish don't smell like fish.
Yeah.
I think that's something that people don't know, and that's something that you only know once you're kind of connected to the source and connected to your actual source of food, growing, the environments where the livestock are. Yeah, aquaponics is so cool. Everybody should know about it. Mm-hmm.
So the manure from the fish is what is giving the nutrition to the water and giving it the microbiome and microbes that it needs. Are you adding like additional nutrients aside from the fish waste?
I know that sometimes like we would test our water, right? And sometimes there would be certain nutrients that would need to be added, but ideally no. So what happens is that the fish stool and then pretty much these like bacteria show up, right? and they start to break down the like it's not just the stool, like it's also like it's really the bacteria like going. I need to do more studies on the bacteria and things of that nature, but it's like the fish stool, right? And then the bacteria show up, and the bacteria is like, all right, game on. It's time for us to get to work. And then the bacteria break it down, break down the stool in a way that the roots of the plants can take up those nutrients, right? And then the plants pretty much clean that water. The plants of the roots clean that water, and then it goes back to the fish. Yeah, and then sometimes there would be some times where, let's say, like there aren't enough plants in the system, right? So there isn't enough, like during the winter time, in New York, at least during the winter time, there isn't enough plants in the system to soak up that ammonia, right? That is created by the fish waste. And so then we can't really feed the fish, right, during those times, because one, they should be like hibernating and they shouldn't be as active. The water isn't as warm, it's cooler, it's colder, and so then the fish start to, hibernate. And they also don't really eat as much in the wintertime anyway. And yeah, I feel like I'm getting a little sidetracked, but
because it's so much, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, as you're talking, I'm thinking about the comparison to the human body and how our microbiome is neglected and disturbed in so many ways, from our microbiome in our gut, our vagina, our mouth, our, everywhere. And the way you say you guys have to clean out the system if the fish get sick, I mean, in a similar way, I mean, if you use salt water, that's a, less harsh way of doing it. But we do it with antibiotics and all sorts of things that disturb our microbiomes in such ways that has side effects that people don't even think about. Like they will have issues and think it's something more than just the microbiome in your gut being unbalanced. But yeah, that's what everything you just said had me thinking about, because of course that's what I do. But yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot to think about.
Yeah. But yeah, I guess in summary, I implore everybody to look into aquaponics as a sustainable way of growing food and raising fish. And I would say that definitely check out Oko Farms in Brooklyn, New York. They're an amazing organization doing amazing work.
Is it Opal? You said OPA.
Oko, OKO.
Okay. Cool. Okay, so this type of farming is very interesting to me, because I actually looked up a few in the area, and there aren't many. But the food desert issue could definitely be addressed with this type of farming for sure. And even for entrepreneurs, like being able to grow your own food and organic food, being an option for more people if we start to do this more. So it's a pretty innovative and pretty awesome way of farming that I think is very cool.
Yeah, absolutely. And especially with, since it's a soilless way of doing farming, like a lot of the soil, I want to say all, but I can't say all because I guess I don't really know that, but I really want to say all. The soil in urban areas tend to be like denigrate, like there's just no way that you should really be growing in that soil. So figuring out a soilless way to farm could definitely assist food desert areas. Yes.
So following the Civil War, like 55% of America's farmers were Black. Now it's less than 1%. Do you think that's changing now, or
do I think that's changing now? I mean,
you think we're going back to the way it used to be?
I want to say yes. I really want to say yes, because I believe that's what I believe. I also run in crowds of Black farmers. Like I'm running crowds of Black stewards. Like once you look for your people, you will find your people.
Mm-hmm.
I found my people. Like we out here. Like people saying that the Black farmer doesn't exist. I'm like, what do you mean? Like, we out here. However, I do understand that, I live in a specific, I kind of live in a bubble, right? I'm very much focused on my own lane. I do my best not to get distracted by statistics that want to make me feel like I'm alone.
Yeah.
As true as those statistics, excuse me, as true as those statistics are, right? Like it is true that there used to be an abundance of us and now there's no more of us, and that was strategic, right? That disconnection from the land was strategic. That yeah, because I know that liberation starts with land, right? And I definitely see that there is a population of us not only returning to the land, but also guiding people back to the land, because this type of work is not supposed to be done alone.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, what have you learned about healing both individually and collectively through reconnecting with the earth or the land?
Yeah. Something that I've learned, this is your, yeah, what I've learned individually and collectively about, you said healing, right?
Yes, yes.
So one of the major things that I learned is that balance is necessary.
Yes.
Balance is so necessary because we live in a world where people will keep giving from givers. Like, no, people will keep taking from givers.
Mm-hmm.
And you might start with a full cup, and your cup might be so big and so full that you feel like I can keep pouring, I can keep pouring, I can keep pouring. And then your cup is empty, and then it takes a really long time because you had such a great capacity to give. Like it takes a really long time for you to like build up the capacity to give again. Yeah, and something else that I've learned is that you need to know how to treat yourself first and take care of yourself first in order to express those boundaries and show others how to take care of you, especially as a giver, especially as an educator, or as a guider, right? And I've definitely learned patience and grace, and all of this is reflected through land stewardship, right? I'm thinking of a garden. I'm thinking of how, the garden really does teach you the importance of balance and reciprocity. Right? I'm thinking of all of the work that goes into the beginning of the season in springtime, and you should not be expected to harvest or reap anything in the springtime and potentially the early summertime. Right, and that's patience. And you give all this work, right, and then you get to start to reap maybe near the mid to the end summer to the fall, when all of a sudden like all the work you can't all the work that you put in throughout the season is so the land is so appreciative that it's giving to you in abundance, and you're like, oh my God, I gotta give away this squash, I have no more room in my pantry. Yeah, so yeah, and again through the garden, like you learn how to, like, the balance of needing to take care of yourself. Like the plants need water and so do you. Just simple things like that. Drink water and drink a lot of it.
Mm-hmm.
And drink alive water at that as well. And yeah, and I think the land also has shown me that healing needs to happen collectively. Healing is supposed to happen collectively. Yes, we can have our own solo journeys because we are all living in, I guess, individually in our vessels. However, the healing should happen collectively. Plants don't grow by themselves. They grow and are strengthened by each other, growing around each other, right? Yes, they have their own individual space. However, they wouldn't be thriving the way that they do without the support of their networks of roots and communicating the way that they communicate with one another. So yeah, that's my answer.
I love that. Love that. So many people feel disconnected from the natural world, especially in cities. What are some small but meaningful ways you would suggest people begin to repair that relationship?
That's such a great question. I get this question a lot, actually, and I have a really simple answer. Two simple things that people can do. Go for a walk. Go for a walk outside and look at a tree. Look at a tree or look at the plants on the ground. It could be the grass, if there's grass, if they didn't concrete up everything. Or there's probably a tree somewhere, right? Look at that tree and listen to that tree. Like, listen, what is that tree saying? And don't just make something up because you want to make something up, but just listen. Listen to what that tree is saying. The land communicates with us. And plants are actually very straightforward. They're not like human beings at all. They're not passive aggressive. They're not going to say something that they don't mean, right? They're very intelligent and they will communicate very straightforward to you in simple ways. Like, what is the plant saying? What is the tree saying to you? Are their leaves starting to change? Okay, they're telling you that it's fall. It's the beginning of fall. That is what the plant is communicating. That's what the tree is communicating to you, right? It doesn't always have to be this like really heightened spiritual message coming through from the tree, especially if you're not, eating certain things or like have certain things within your daily routine to be able for the plant to be able to communicate with you in that heightened sense of way, right? The plant or the tree is going to communicate with you through very basic means in ways that you'll be able to communicate. I mean, to be able to understand. And and it could also look at the roots. Are the roots of the tree breaking out of the concrete? Okay, this tree is communicating that they need some more space, or this tree is communicating, can y'all get rid of all this dang concrete everywhere? Yeah. It's so disrespectful. So that is one thing. Is to go for a walk, talk to the trees. You can go ahead and hug the tree if you want. But yeah, go have a conversation with the tree. It doesn't have to be a verbal one. It could be just the one where you look and you observe and you listen to what the tree is saying to you.
I love that. That reminded me of a time when I lived in the DMV area and I lived like very close to like the train station. That was like that was the area there were only some like really big trees by the train station. Mm-hmm. There wasn't a lot of grass where I was. So I would take my jog and I would walk over to like this little strip of grass in this big tree. Now, mm-hmm. After my jog, take off my shoes. And this is at the train station. I know people are like, this woman is crazy. What is she doing? And go grounding on that little bit of grass and like just touch the tree right there in the middle of the like train station. But that was like my way of just kind of like reconnecting because there was nothing around me. Mm-hmm. That was natural. I could go, maybe to like a park or something, but being in a rush and, about to go to work or after work, that was like my option. So yeah, I love that. Sometimes I know people thought I was nuts.
And that's okay. That's okay. Like sometimes you got to get it where you can, right? Yeah. That little patch with that tree, that's where you could get it. You're like, hold up. The tree's speaking, the grass speaking. They're telling me to come right here, ground. Okay, I'm gonna do that. That is your intuition. That is your connection with nature, right? Yeah, yeah. I think that we live in a world where that is seen as crazy. Like that is seen as you know, like, ooh, like, oh, of course, like, you know, like I just think that there's also a lot of work to do around unlearning, you know, certain things that we need. Like we need to unlearn being embarrassed about grounding. And I laugh, but it's really not funny because so many people need grounding. So many people need to reconnect to nature and ultimately reconnect with ourselves. Because what the land is, and isn't it? We are extensions of the land. Where did we come from? Right? Where did we come from? We are really extensions of the land, and we're all connected. Like all life on this earth is connected. And for this to be seen as something that is, I can't think of a better
hippie,
phrase.
hippie, woo-woo.
Yeah, like hippie dippy woo woo type stuff. Like, no. This is the real. This is real, right?
Exactly.
Like, everything else, most of the things that we participate in are manufactured and like illusions that we create and live out every single day. But you probably sitting down in that patch of grass by that tree was probably the realest thing you did all day.
Yeah. It felt really good too. And you can't really explain that to people that just don't get it. But like, yeah, and if you even think about astrology or signs, I'm a Taurus, so I'm like very earthy anyways. But
sorry, I have a second part to your question as well about reconnecting with nature, and that is to eat alive food, like eat live foods, and you know, try your best to eat directly from farmers. Ask those farmers, do they spray? If they do spray, what do they spray with, right? Because not every farmer at the farmer's market is an organic farmer. They could be spraying. And yeah, and also cooking for yourself, like eating from your own hands. I think that especially in New York, like eating out culture is so normalized. We're too busy to be eating from our own hands, right? So doing your best to go for walks, talk to the trees, eat alive food, and connecting directly with your farmer. I think those are ways that people connect with nature. Yeah.
Great tips for sure. So what do you think future generations will need to know about food and land that we're not teaching enough today? Is there anything else you think?
What do future generations need to know about food and land that we're not teaching today? Yeah, I saw that question and I was like, ooh, that's a really, really good one.
You might have answered it through our conversation initially, but
yeah, I think that I definitely resonate with the fact that we are extension. I want future generations to know that we are an extension of the land and that it is our responsibility to return to ourselves and to divest from colonial programming.
yeah, for sure. That is a task and a half. Because these mothers are so entrenched that it's just like, yeah, the reprogramming is necessary.
They get us young. Get us young. It takes a long time to see clearly when you have been just been going through smokes and mirrors, like for the majority of your life.
They start the mucus buildup ASAP with the Similac and all that. Like we already starting to get, you know, all these respiratory issues. The kids are always sick because they wouldn't be sick if we fed them differently, but we're taught how to feed them in a colonized way, and we gonna wander back one of these days.
Yeah, sickness is normalized. I think another thing that future generations should know that sickness isn't normal. Inflammation is not normal,
No,
right?
it's not.
Smoke and smog and yellow skies are not normal. Like these are things that we should not accept.
Yeah.
We deserve, as extensions of the earth, we deserve actual cleanliness. And I don't mean cleanliness that's like keeping your house clean with all these disinfectant sprays and whatnot, but like clean environments, actual environments. Garbage is not normal. Garbage is not normal. Landfills are not normal. I think I really would want future generations to know that we're completely past the point of normal. This is not normal. We're living in a dystopian reality, right? That we have created for ourselves. Like these are self-created hardships, right? Like these are man-made problems that man is dealing with, right? Like this is what we have to experience on a daily basis is a result from being completely disconnected from source and ultimately completely disconnected from God, right? And I think that I would want future generations to know that we need to really, you should question what is normal. Do you have asthma? Why is that normal? Why is that normal? Do you have extreme pain when you're on your cycle every single month? That is not normal. Like we need to make a distinction between normalized, right? And what's actually normal, right? Yes,
These are actual pathologies that people like you said are normalizing. Yeah. And people are so sick that they've learned to cope with the sickness in very sick ways. So we're just in this vicious cycle and we're taking it out on ourselves, the environment, like you said. And I know in your video you mentioned that you were focused on the environment initially, and you so happened to stumble upon farming. Is that right? That you decided to go into that based on your environmental beliefs. Can you talk a little bit more about your environmental beliefs?
I'm going to do my best to answer your question. And yeah, so I something I say a lot is we eat every single day. How is food not important? How we grow our food is important. Where your food is coming from is important. And the people who are growing your food are important. All of these things. The majority of people in America get their food from we eat every single day. How is food not important? The way that our food is grown, who's growing our food, when our food was harvested, was our food able to live out to their full maturity, right? Was our food sprayed with poison? I don't mean to laugh, but it sometimes, because it's really serious. It's really serious what's being done with the food. Was our food grown in a way that is free, right? Monoculture is the way that majority of food is grown within the United States. And what monoculture is food growing, like let's say it's a cabbage farm, but right, let's say it's a cabbage farm and they're just growing rows and rows and rows and rows and rows and rows of cabbage. Rows of cabbage, so much cabbage you just wouldn't even know what to do with it. But they're growing for the nation, a farm for the nation for all the cabbages that we could name. There's a fire truck passing by. Right. And so what happens is that because that's not natural, it's not natural for cabbages to grow on rows and rows and rows and rows, right? And just one variety of that cabbage at that. So what happens is that you're going to attract a pest. You're going to attract the cabbage worm, right? You're going to attract the cabbage worm. And then what happens then is that the farmer is going to spray with poison so that the cabbage worm doesn't come. And what that that does is not just kill off the cabbage worm, but it kills off all of the beneficial pollinators as well. That's why we're having such an issue with bees and good pollinators, is because farmers are concerned about, you know, growing enough food to sell, okay? And then they're spraying, and they're not just killing the pollinators, they're also killing the soil, and they're also killing themselves, right? There are farmers in the middle of the country, they call it, I'm the type of person who I can't always remember the specifics of statistics. But I implore people to look all of this stuff up. But there is a place in the middle of the United States, and they call it Cancer Valley, where there are farmers who have gotten cancer 5 or 6 times from the type of chemicals that they're spraying on the plants, right? So it's not just killing the plant, it's not just killing all the pollinators, it's not just killing the soil, it's also killing the farmer, right? And on top of that, what does it mean to kill the soil? Killing the soil means that you're preventing the soil from being able to sequester carbon. So all of this carbon dioxide that's in the atmosphere, warming the planet, causing global warming, and melting
the ice caps. Now, if you could pick up where you left off, I want you to finish your thought for sure.
Right. So what these pesticides are doing, or what these chemicals that farmers are spraying on the soil is doing, it's killing. Yeah. So let me start. The chemicals being sprayed on the soil is preventing the soil from being able to sequester carbon, right? And so all of that carbon dioxide that's in the atmosphere, warming the planets, melting the ice caps, causing climate change, right? All of that carbon dioxide is really supposed to be in the soil, right? But if we're killing the soil, then the soil won't be able to do that. Its natural ability, the soil is losing its natural ability to sequester carbon. On top of that, it is preventing us from being able to grow more food. So we actually, from what I understand, the last time I checked, and this was, I think, in 2021. So that means we have less time than this. So we have less than 10 years of topsoil left on this planet, like farmable topsoil. What they deem as farmable topsoil, we have less than 10 years of that left, right? Wow. So if we don't start figuring out ways to regenerate soil, i.e. just composting, right? Yeah. All those food scraps that are going into the landfills, right? Not doing anything but creating more pollution, right? And denigrating our livelihoods and ability to breathe properly.
Yeah.
If we don't start investing in organic farms that don't spray, right? If we don't start doing what we can, right, to grow our own food, right? Then, because growing a tomato is very possible in a windowsill, right? Growing certain things, you could do it. It doesn't take much. And that's also part of my job, is that I really show people, like, you could do it. Just start with a little seed, start with the tomato. The tomato is really such an easy plant to grow. It's such a nice beginner friendly plant. Just keep watering that tomato and you'll see. Start with one. But yeah, going back to the bigger question of like the role, what brought me to food when it came to environmentalism, because I was an environmental studies major, and there was all of these different topics going on about energy, you know, solar, wind, nuclear. For some people were interested in nuclear power, and none of that stuff really drew me in, but it was really food that drew me in, because we eat every single day. Food is very, very important. And then I went down the rabbit hole to realize like how much the food industry does impact climate change. The way that our food is grown is so important. It's not just about electric cars. Sure, if you can get an electric car, go ahead, get an electric car, I guess. Sure. But like how you're eating, how your food is being grown is just as, if not more important. And the reason why I gravitated towards that is because Black folks suffer, of course, the most when it comes to these things. Like we suffer the most from diet-related diseases. We suffer from food deserts, or some people like to call them food swamps, because there's stuff to eat, but it's not actual food, right? We suffer the most, and therefore we have the most to gain from re-educating ourselves, unlearning, right? Knowing that the land did not enslave us. The land has the ability to free us, actually. The land is free, right? The land shows us how to be free. If you're able to sit and listen and observe, be patient, right? Have grace with yourself and have grace with the land, right? All of this is possible if we really look back, really embody that lesson of Sankofa. We got to look back to know where we're going, right? We have to study our people. Study our people. Don't study the history that they taught you, that they programmed, right? To let you know that, oh, we have a history that is no richer than slavery. No, we have such a rich history, a rich agrarian history. There's a reason why we were brought over here to farm, because of how intelligent we are.
Yeah.
And so, continue with your question.
I was going to ask you, and I don't want to go down the rabbit hole too much, but is your environmental beliefs what led you to your perspective on our economic system and capitalism and industrialization? Did it come from that, or was that your belief prior to getting into your environmental studies?
That's such a good question. Fire truck passing by. Yeah, I think is there another fire truck passing by? Okay, yeah. I believe that I'm thinking, because now I'm being brought back to college, because I would say I always had a connection with the land, right? From a really young age. Once I learned about global warming, and for whatever reason, I felt very, very connected to the polar bears when I was in second grade. And I learned about global warming in second grade, and I went home and I unplugged everything out of the kitchen and just turned off all the electronics. And my mom was like, "What's going on?" I was like, "I'm saving the polar bears." And so I've always had this want to be in nature, to be connected to nature, to, I guess, want to save nature and really save myself, because I saw that as what I needed. I needed nature to be okay for me to be okay. And I grew up, I went to college. I was the first person of my graduating class to declare my major, because I was so set on, like, yes, I am an environmental studies major. This is me. This is my calling. And I had this brilliant professor. If it really wasn't for this professor, then I don't think I would have gotten here. And I had this brilliant professor. His name is Ethan Miller, who brought in literature into our curriculum about capitalism and environmentalism. And I started to see how capitalism is this machine that needs to be stopped. Like it needs to be stopped. We need to divest from this system.
Do you believe that the capitalist system or white supremacy?
I think they go hand in hand. I see, and I need to do more studies on this, right? I see capitalism founded on the basis of white supremacy. Capitalism as we know it today is founded on the basis of white supremacy. Like we had our own markets, right? Like markets existed. Markets existed in a way before the legacy, like markets existed before the legacy of white supremacy. We were out here, right? And we were buying things, right? We were exchanging goods. Like the markets are not the problem. It's really the market that wants to make a profit off of the labor and more time free labor and enslavement of Black, brown, and indigenous people.
So this capitalist society from slavery begets everything else being exploited.
Say that one more time. I think it broke up a little on my end.
So slavery and capitalism go hand in hand. And this idea of industrialization and everything that came after. Basically, you're saying white supremacy is synonymous with capitalism?
The capitalism that we know today. Yeah. I think that white supremacy took capitalism. And again, there are people who are so well versed, like they'll be able to name studies and papers that will be able to outline these things so eloquently. And they'll have timelines, right? They'll have all of that. Mm-hmm. And what I know is that the legacy of white supremacy that created chattel slavery and profited from chattel slavery, right? That legacy still exists today in modern day capitalism. Mm-hmm. Look at Apple. Let's just look at Apple. How are they getting the resources that they need to create all these new computers all the time? Where are they getting it from? This still exists till today. Yeah. And it's a problem. And it's something that we need to divest from it.
Oh. I agree with you completely. You know, I'm not an economist by any, like, I don't get into all of that too deep, but at surface level, I do have the base understanding, and where you're coming from is, I get it. But living in America, it's like, what steps are we taking towards moving away from this type of exploitive system? And are there ways that we can do it better, looking at other countries and what their systems are set up to do?
Yeah.
I know that there are flaws with like communism and socialism, and you know, and it's never been able to like really effectively operate on its own.
I try not to get wrapped up in man-made things like the economy, because it's like sometimes I'm like, what is it? I can't touch it. I can't, like, is it real? Like, so because really part of my unlearning has been a full freeing of my mind and being able to recognize what is real and what isn't real. And obviously, yes, I still have to do things like pay my taxes. I do those things so I don't get in trouble with the man-made laws, right? But I also, but I say all this to say, like, I'm definitely not an economist. Like I have a really hard time mentally participating in things that, in my opinion, aren't real.
Social constructs, basically.
Exactly.
I got you.
So, but what is interesting is that a lot of people do think that, okay, well, if it's not capitalism, then it's communism, or it's this or that. And like, it doesn't, I wouldn't go, I also don't know enough about communism to really speak on it intelligently. And I wouldn't go as far to say that we should go towards this direction, because what I do know is that that direction also isn't, or what I feel in my spirit is that I don't see that direction as necessarily the answer. It's not one or the other. The same professor who helped to open my eyes to the atrocities of capitalism, he has a paper that's called Solidarity Economies, and this paper is open to the public. Like, anybody can Google solidarity economies and it's going to pop up. And I think he did that intentionally. And one of the main points of that paper is he defines what an economy is. And he goes through all these different types of economies that we already participate in. So he basically and I need to actually go back and read that paper, but I read it within the past year. And he defines the economy kind of as like pretty much this system that we participate in, right? And we do participate in all these systems where there is an exchange. There's the household economy, right? So like, let's look at the household economy, right? Let's say that I guess let's think of the typical, like the nuclear family, right? Let's say that your father is the chef, right? In the household economy. And let's say that your mother is the cleaner in the household economy. And ultimately, like that, like being that chef, or let's say the daughter. And this is a nuclear family where people are all still living at home, because that should be renormalized, actually. Like, moving out as soon as you go to college, like we got to kind of like divesting from your family structure as soon as you get to college. That's something else. Maybe that's a topic for another day. But all right, let's say the daughter is the shopper, right? Like she shops for the food that the father is cooking, and then the mother is cleaning, right? Like she cleans up the dishes afterwards, all right? And so we're looking at that as an economy and seeing like the father cooking, that is the value that he's bringing, right? It's not a financial thing and in exchange for that, but he is cooking for you in exchange for you cleaning for him. And then he's cooking for you in exchange for the daughter, like bringing in the food, right? And so pretty much looking at these things that we already participate in, these systems that we already participate in, as having value, right? And no, we're not putting a financial value to that, but there is value to it, right? There's obviously like the barter system. There's the barter system that can be flawed, because you have to see the things that you're exchanging as equal in value. And so that's just a verbal or maybe written contract between the 2 or 3 parties that are bartering. But really and truly, like looking at the things that we do on a daily basis, like the exchanges that we have, like as their own type of economies, like there's like the community economy. And so not putting everything into that capitalistic economy and all of our value in there, and like, oh, if it's not making me money, then it's not worth anything. No, like we have meaningful and valuable relationships that give to us in different ways that money could never. And like putting serious value in that. And I think that if we start to look at our lives, like look at all the things that bring value to our lives besides money, if we start to really invest in those economies, some people call them communities, but if you really invest in those economies, and we take the divestment out of that financial economy as most as we can, because we're not going to be like, you know what, Con Ed, I'm investing in my household economy instead of you this month. Con Ed's going to be like, bet, no likes. No likes is my, so, you know, there's a balance to it. Obviously, there's a balance to it. But I think it does start in the mind of like, let's reshape the way that we pour value into certain things. Not everything will have a financial value on it. And that is okay. That doesn't make it any less valuable. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Yes, for sure. Yeah. The idea of balance in anything is the theme that I'm taking from it. Um, so I've added a little piece of my podcast called Rapid Fire, where I'm just going to ask you some questions and you can answer them, hopefully as quickly as possible, whatever first comes to your mind.
Okay.
All right. So what's your favorite vegetable to grow and your favorite one to eat?
Okay, I don't have a favorite vegetable, but right now my favorite vegetable is a cucamelon. It's like a tiny little cucumber. It's so cute. The kitties love them. They're vine and oh my God, they're perfect in salads. Perfect little crunch. Yeah.
Never heard of it. I have to try one. Okay. If you could invite three people living or passed on to a community dinner at Liberated Lands, who would they be?
Okay, great question. First goes to Bob Marley because I love him and I would I need to talk to him about what he's doing on the other side because Jamaica needs his help and guidance right now.
Yeah.
And Nanny of the Maroons as well. My maternal ancestry is from Jamaica. So Nanny of the Maroons, I would love to just talk to her and see how.
Now, I don't know who that is. Let me write that down. Who?
Nanny of the Maroons, she led the rebellion against the British.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, she's one, Queen Nanny. And so the third, I should have a living one. My grandma.
Okay. Do you have a go-to comfort meal?
Oh, I have been really playing with this idea of a comfort meal because I've been lately I've realized that, you know, when I'm going to treat myself, I tend to indulge in something that's not good for me at all. So I have been rethinking that. And lately, when I go for a comfort meal, it is fruit, watermelon when it's in season. So comforting, so refreshing, light, chef's kiss with a little bit of lemon on top.
Yeah, watermelon is pretty awesome. I have to kick this habit of the potato, like French fries, chips. They are the last thing I gotta ditch.
Good. Also plantain.
Yeah.
So good.
I don't know how long. Well, it's been open a couple of months actually. There's this Puerto Rican restaurant not too far away, and they have these mofongo cups. It's a Puerto Rican place. They have these mofongo cups with and they fill it with this marinated mushroom. So good. I like my plantains deep fried.
That sounds good.
All right. So, what's a small daily ritual that keeps you connected to nature, even on busy days?
I give thanks. You know, I give thanks for the air I'm able to breathe and the trees that allow me to breathe the air. And I give thanks for the sun for rising every single day. Or really for the sun for not burning out because the sun doesn't rise. You know, the planet turns and things.
Yeah.
Yeah, really just giving thanks for the really simplest of things. Yeah.
The last and final question. Well, maybe not a question, but finish the sentence. The earth teaches me.
The earth teaches me so much. The earth teaches me patience. And the earth teaches me love.
Love that. Well, wonderful way to finish is with love. I appreciate you thoroughly for coming on and sharing all of your gifts and inspiration and perspective with the audience. Do you have any last words for the audience before we go?
Yes, we were all farmers once, and the land wants us to return. Free your mind and free the land. You got this. Liberation starts with the land.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate you.
Thank you for inviting me.
For sure. You enjoy the rest of this beautiful day.